There's this tendency to give single people advice on really pursuing self improvement when they're in seasons of singleness, when they're post a breakup. It's very much encouraged to focus on yourself and you will be better off when the next one comes. However, the pressure to constantly be evolving alone with the promise that love will come once you're ready or better is actually very problematic. And I wanted to peel back the psychological layers of that and what you're telling yourself when you subscribe to that. It creates this hyper individualization of healing. And this is actually contrary to what we see in our day to day lives, where you're seeing all your peers in these very messy human relationships being their authentic selves and having someone willing to love them through that process. Be there by their side while they're on this journey of self discovery and healing. Then the comparison comes into play. Why do they all get the luxury of being loved through their flaws, while you're constantly being pushed back to the drawing board, where that was a lesson that you had to learn and now you need to go off and be single again and be better for the next time? When we internalize those messages, instead of being able to be your authentic self in relationships, you have this reservation of, I need to be perfect. I need to show up because no one has stayed, and everyone's telling me that I need to improve or be better in order to get that relationship and to get that partner. And you're telling yourself that maybe I'm not worth enduring discomfort for. And then you start to self-reject because it creates this romantic burnout of, you go back into dating and you're hoping like, okay, is this version of myself that I curated and worked on going to be enough for anyone? With this delayed attachment, because you are so worried that if you show up as your true self, let your walls down because you're going to fear that you're going to be exiled again, which actually is what is making people remain single when they show up as this very perfect curated sense of self, is that they self-abandon and people will not connect with you because you're not being authentic or genuine. So they can't build an actual connection with the people pleaser. But we have internalized this journey of self-improvement so much because we didn't think we were worth love in those previous versions of ourselves who weren't totally healed or totally whatever. You're not just losing someone when you do that. You're actually re-entering solitude with homework. And that also reinforces that earning love or relationship or romantic connection is performative and conditional. So if you have to constantly be the best version of yourself every single day, which we should all be striving for, but is not realistic because we're not perfect, then you are going to tell yourself that, oh, I wasn't worthy of them showing up for me because I was grumpy. Giving people advice that they need to go off and work on themselves so they show up better or ready in the next relationship. You can be somewhat better, but you won't be perfect. You won't be totally ready. You're still going to be imperfect and you're going to need to find a partner who's willing to go on a journey with you. And realistically, what does a fully healed person look like? How do we define someone who's totally aligned and transcended? It's really hard to define or pin down because that's not totally real. We're constantly in a journey of self improvement and evolving and learning every single day. And I think that's why grace is so important, because you need to honor yourself and acknowledge that you're human. It's impossible to expect yourself to be perfect in every interaction. When you are in a situation where your nervous system can actually not regulate or rest because you're constantly in fear of, if I mess up or step out of balance or like drop the mask, then I am not worthy of this love, versus holding space for me to become that with them by my side because they'll love me unconditionally. So, underneath this narrative of, I need to do better, I need to be better and ready and evolved and healed and glowed up for the next relationship, is invisible grief. The grief of not being loved while becoming. And this isn't self pity, it's actually longing that you're experiencing. It's the aching I think everyone deserves and needs, to be loved at your half formed state. Not just be loved after we grow, but while we're growing. And this isn't to excuse people to be a worse version of themselves, but it's a way that they could hold space of, I don't need to always perform to be loved. That true unconditional love is someone seeing me, flaws and all, and being there with me. So when we feed single people this narrative of, go off on your own and go do the work and then you'll be better for the next one, we have to be mindful that they need to be doing that for themselves, because versus you weren't worthy or ready or capable then.